Guys. So for Movement Lab this week, we're going to talk about the next part of a traditional sun salutation, and that is Chaturanga, which is just lowering down into a half push-up. Now, Chaturanga, I'm just going to demonstrate it so we can kind of talk about what's going on here. So Chaturanga is this pose. So, right, I'm just lowered down halfway into a push-up. And there's a lot going on in your body in that position, right? I'm having to support my whole body with my core, right? And then my shoulders are bent. My elbows are bent at a 90-degree angle, and I'm holding a lot of my weight on my wrists. So I've got to have wrist stability as well as flexibility to extend into that 90-degree angle and hold a lot of my weight on my wrists. But I also need to be able to stay open through my chest and support the weight of my body with my back shoulders and my back body. Okay, and then to maintain the natural curves of my spine, I need to have a lot of support through my belly. My legs are completely active, right? And so it takes a lot of strength. Now, what happens a lot is that when someone comes into Chaturanga, and this is, their shoulders can like creep down and just start dumping a lot of weight into the connective tissue of your shoulders, and that's just not what we want to do. And so it takes some time to gradually build up the strength for Chaturanga. If you go to a yoga studio and go to a vinyasa flow class, you could be doing this Chaturanga push-up like 40 or more times in the course of the class. And so this pose creates more injuries from yoga than any other thing that's done in yoga. So let's just kind of talk about how to build up strength and alternatives as you're building strength. Okay? Because we've got to really be able to support ourselves with our deep core, right? And have a lot of strength through our shoulders and back body and scapular mobility so that we can draw our shoulder blades together, keep our ribs knit together, and be really stable through your torso and your shoulders. So let's just start with a little bit of mobility through our shoulder blades. So just reach your arms forward and just find that protraction of your shoulder blades and then retraction. So my whole body is staying still except just my shoulders and my shoulder blades moving on my back. So protract means to spread, and then retract, bring together. I'll turn this way, and actually you can probably see my shoulder blades today. Usually have sleeves. So spread your shoulder blades apart and then bring your shoulder blades together. Spread your shoulder blades apart and bring your shoulder blades together. So we're just kind of turning on those muscles. Okay, and now let's find some circles. So let's draw them together and then elevate your shoulder blades, pull them apart, and then depress. Draw together and elevate, pull apart, and bring down. Draw together and lift, pull apart, and bring down. Do that a few more times in that direction. And then let's pull apart and lift, draw together and depress. Draw apart and elevate, and draw together and depress. And try to let this movement come from your shoulder blades and not your traps and this upper shoulder stuff. So you're moving here, and if your wrists get tired, you can just do something different with your hands. But we're really thinking about moving through your shoulder blades. Okay, and then shake that out. Let's turn on our core. So I want you just to come and lay down on your back. Okay, and we're going to find that Chaturanga shape with the support of the floor under our back. So lay down. Okay. And then just bring your elbows alongside your rib cage. So your elbows are bent at a 90-degree angle. Okay, and when we do Chaturanga with these like narrow arms, elbows in towards your rib cage, you don't really want to let your shoulders go down lower than your elbows. So we're just going to sit here, lay here, with our arms at a 90-degree angle. Flex your wrists as much as you can, okay, and just let that energy strengthen through your wrists. And then soften your ribs down toward the floor. So especially your lower front ribs, knit them down toward the floor. You can keep a natural curve under your lower back, but still feel like you're shortening the space between your lowest ribs and the top rim of your pelvis. So you feel that engagement there. And then just flex through your feet. So you can imagine right now we're just laying on our backs, but you can feel the back of your head, the back of your heart, and the back of your pelvis are all in a line. Okay, and then just float your right heel up off the floor a couple of inches, and then lower it down. And then float your left heel up off the floor a couple of inches, and then lower it down. Go back and forth, super simple. And especially once you've got your core engaged here, those lower ribs knitting down, lifting and lowering, just keep going back and forth, lifting and lowering. Those legs should feel really easy. Okay. So you're shortening that space between your lowest ribs and the top rim of your pelvis, and you're knitting those low ribs down toward the floor. Okay, so now lift your right leg up, and then we're going to switch in the air instead of on the floor. So just lift your left leg and then lower your right. And now go back and forth like that. So you're going to have a little deeper engagement in your core. And we're just turning on all of that activity. So keep your legs straight and your ankles flexed. And just go back and forth. Just turn on that core and just feel that strength. You can push the backs of your shoulders into the floor, but keep your lowest ribs knit down. And just feel all this effort through your whole body. Go back and forth, and then see if you can lift both legs just a couple inches off the floor. Just let your heels, I'm shaking, push your lowest ribs down, and then release. Stretch your arms up above your head. Just get a long stretch through your body. But that was a whole body effort there. And we were just laying on our backs just to kind of keep that stability. But you got to feel that strength through your central and the activity through your legs, all of it. Right. So this knitting your lower ribs down is really important. It turns on all that stability, your deep muscles along your spine to help support you. And pushing the backs of your shoulders toward the floor keeps your collarbones broad, and it keeps your upper arm bones plugged in to your shoulder blades. So you're using that whole apparatus of your shoulder, the bony and muscular structure, to support your body and not dumping yourself into the connective tissues by letting your shoulders roll forward. Okay, so that's really important when we're doing Chaturanga. So now let's do our scapular movement with a little bit of load. I think I'm going to have to turn my camera a little bit. I'm going to go to the wall. So I'm going to turn this. And so find a wall. So we're just going to kind of work on some push-up action at the wall. And let your hands be about shoulder height, maybe a little bit lower, and about shoulder distance apart, or maybe a little bit wider. Okay, and push the wall away and spread your shoulder blades apart. We're just going to do that scapular movement here, and then let your chest sink toward the wall and just move there. So the further back you step your feet, right, the more load there's going to be in your arms and your wrists. But this is a really good place to start to load up those muscles, right, in a really gradual and progressive way. So we did this movement without any load, and now we're just bringing a little bit to it. And so then you can bring your awareness, and you can start to find some circles here. So draw your shoulder blades together, elevate, push away, and depress. So as you're pushing in the wall, it's going to be different. But see if you can find those movements of your shoulder blades, and then see if you can switch directions, and see if you can use your serratus muscles down here. Like, kind of think of this super strong armpit area as the place that you're originating your movement of your shoulder blades, and your rhomboids, the muscles in between your shoulders, and not this neck stuff. Okay, so if you feel all of that neck, upper shoulder stuff turning on, see if you can let go, relax it, and try again. Okay, because that's where we want the action to come from. We want all of this stability around your shoulder blade to be holding you, and you're not dumping this into your neck or the front of the shoulders. Okay, so now that we're here at the wall, we're going to try just some traditional push-ups. And so then your elbows can go wide, and elbows wide is actually a lot more stable for your shoulders, and you're able to keep your chest a little bit more open. So when you're doing a sun salutation and lowering down, it's totally fine with me if you have your elbows wide, and you don't have to keep them in. It's a little more challenging to keep your elbows in close to your body, even though that's the traditional way to do it. But place your hands on the wall, and we're just going to do some wall push-ups. Feel like you're unscrewing jars with both of your hands. So like this right hand is unscrewing to the right, left hand is unscrewing to the left. So I guess the right hand would be tightening, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. But just find that energetic screwing with your hands so that you're turning your elbow creases up, and you've got this external rotation of your upper arms, and you're really turning on all of these muscles here, okay, on the side of your armpit. And then you can use some load and push yourself down. I need to bring my hands a little bit lower so they're shoulder distance apart, okay? And you can just start building your arm strength here, and really think of when we were laying on the ground, right? The back of our head, the back of our heart, the back of our pelvis were all in a line. And so this is a great place just to get in a lot of reps in building that strength for Chaturanga, just doing a wide elbow push-up against the wall. And, do like 20 or 30, just high reps, so you get those muscles working here against the wall without a whole lot of load, right? Because our whole body weight, that's a lot of upper body strength to push our whole body weight. And that takes some progression to get there, to be able to do that. So play with those wall push-ups. I mean, do a few every day. It's really helpful for you just to start to build that strength and build the wrist stability without the load of your whole body to build up to a traditional Chaturanga. I'm going to move the camera again. So after, let's see, move my camera and not my whole bench. Um, so another way, just to take a little bit less load to work on that push-up strength, is to do some plank work with a chair or like on a coffee table. You could do it on your couch. It might be a little too squishy. So I like a chair. And this is a different position for your wrists. So it strengthens them in a different way, but you can use your grip strength. Right. And so I'm really thinking about back of my head, back of my heart, back of my pelvis, all in a line. So I'm not going to tuck my chin here and strain my neck and dump into the fronts of my shoulders. And you could just hold a plank here on your chair. Okay. And if you need to, just do one hand, right? If you need to do one hand, you can do a side plank here with the top leg, foot in front. And this is a great way just to build strength. You could do the other side. And just holding a plank, but having some elevation so that you're not using your whole body weight. You're kind of decreasing that load a little bit, and you can play with that. And then here I'm going to do some more wide elbowed push-ups just on the chair. And so you can play with those there too and just start increasing the reps that you can do here. All right. Okay. I'm going to come down to the floor. Move this away. And let's just do a little bit of wrist strength. It's always super important when we're working with weight bearing on our hands to start building wrist strength. And so, my favorite one is just the lifting your palms here. Keeping your hands wide and lifting palms. And I try to include this almost in every class just so that we're working on this strength all the time. But you can do both at the same time. And then just stretch it. You can turn your hand back. You could do both at the same time. And you can do this sitting here and bring your hands in. You can do just one hand if you need to. Just do one hand while you're sitting back. And that's totally fine. Okay. All right. So let's first talk about some alternatives to do instead of Chaturanga when we're lowering in that sequence of a sun salutation. And then we'll do a couple of rounds of full Chaturanga and just feel that and how that feels in your body, or start working toward it. So, you're standing at the top of your mat. Inhale and reach high. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. We're just going to inhale back to a plank. And then here is where you exhale to lower. One option is just to drop your knees and push yourself back into child's pose. And I really like that option. I think it's a really supportive option, and it also works into your flexibility and your strength to do that. And then you'll slide forward and then come into your back bend, which we'll start working on next week. So that's option number 1. Option number 2, hi, cat, how are you? Is to bring your knees down and then bring your chest to the floor between your hands and your chin to the floor, and keep your bum high, okay? And then let your pelvis come down and lift your heart into your back bend. Okay, so that's option number 2. And those are both really supportive options. Now, this knees, chest, and chin option, when you're doing that, so come and try it with me, really think about that wrapping and strength here. So you've got super armpits of power. You're tightening your jar lid with your right hand. You're unscrewing your jar lid with your left hand. Okay. You're going to let your bum stay high. So this is nice in that you don't have to worry so much about knitting those lower ribs together, really being super solid through your core. You can focus on just the stability in your shoulders. And then bend your elbows to bring your chest and your chin to the floor. Okay, and then you can just kind of lengthen out. And so that's a nice option, is either child's pose or knees, chest, and chin down. Okay. So let's go into a chaturanga. Let's just do a couple practice rounds. So come into a plank first just to find your length here, and then bring your knees down. So we're not quite in a tabletop with your knees right under your hips. Your knees are a little bit further back. Okay. And now we're going to kind of rock forward. So for a traditional chaturanga, we're going to do more of a tricep push-up, and you're going to keep your upper arms just right along your rib cage. And you can even maybe sit up with me for a second. And so your hands are here. Okay, our shoulders are not going to go lower than our elbows. And so a lot of times this is what I see, and that's going to dump a lot of weight into your shoulders. So you've got to rock yourself forward. So you're reaching your heart forward as you keep those lower ribs knit together. So, okay, find your modified plank again. And then you're going to rock yourself forward, right? Your heart's forward of your hands, and then lower. Draw those shoulder blades together, knit those lower ribs together. You can look forward. And then come back up. Okay, let's do that a couple more times. So we're just going to start from this hands and knees. Rock your heart forward, and then lower. And your shoulders don't come lower than your elbows, okay? Stay broad through your collarbones as you come down. So let's just do one more of those. Rock forward, shoulder blades together, lower ribs knit together. And then come on up. Take a little bit of a rest and a stretch. Rest in child's pose. Maybe circle out your wrists a little bit here. Okay, and let's try it again. So start in your plank, and you can stay in a full plank this time or bring your knees down. Okay, and then find that external rotation of your upper arms. So you're tightening the jar lid with your right hand, unscrewing with your left hand. Now we're going to rock onto our tippy toes. Look forward, draw your shoulder blades together, strong through your outer armpits, lower halfway. Okay. And then we'll push back up. Maybe go to downward facing dog or child's pose. And let's try that one more time. Come forward into your plank. Find that external rotation of your upper arm bones, broad through your collarbones. Knit those lower ribs together. Okay, remember how we were on our backs. Rock forward, lower halfway. And then come on up. Downward facing dog. Just take a walk to the top of your mat. Let's go through one full sun salutation there. So just roll yourself up. You can circle out your wrists a little bit. But think of all of that action. Let's just find that chaturanga shape. Sitting up. So tailbone is going to be pointing towards your heels. Okay, you're knitting those lower ribs together. And then broad through your collarbones. So your shoulder heads are not collapsing in. You're broad here, but you're contained here. Okay, think of all of that. Inhale and reach high. Now remember our forward fold work. Lift through that lower belly and exhale, fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale to fold, and we'll just step back to a plank. Inhale in your plank. You can have your knees up or down. Rock yourself forward. Unscrew those lids, those jar lids, and lower. And then bring your pelvis to the floor. Draw your shoulder blades together. And find your back bend. Tuck your toes. And exhale, lift your hips up and back for downward facing dog. All right, so that was our breakdown of Chaturanga, of that lower. Sometimes it's fun to just practice that with some props. So I'll just show you a couple, sorry. You can take a strap, if you've got a yoga strap or some kind of a scarf, and make yourself a loop that helps your arms be about shoulder distance apart. So I need it a little bit wider. Okay. And so I've got the strap, the loop of the strap above my elbow creases. It's on my upper arms. Okay. And then you can come into your plank here. Rock yourself forward, bend your elbows, and you're going to kind of rest in the hammock of your strap. And then you can work here on this balance. You've got the support of your strap. Draw your shoulder blades together on your back, and you can feel the openness through your heart. Okay, and work on those elbows right over your wrists and looking forward. And because you've got that extra help of the support of your strap, it can help you get the feeling of that halfway down. Another way to do that is with blocks. And you can have your blocks on their highest height at the top of your mat. And just find your plank with your hands right behind your blocks. Rock yourself forward and lower to bring your shoulders to your blocks. And then come on up. And you can maybe even hold it. Find that external rotation of your upper arms. Find your plank, rock forward, and shoulders come to your blocks. And that can be some help and support for how far to lower, right? And really turning on all of that back body strength. Another way to use blocks to modify is just to keep working on that wide arm traditional push-up. And you lift, instead of coming all the way to the floor, you can use blocks as a little bit of elevation. Okay, so now we're really done with the movement lab for Chaturanga. So experiment with that. Try some of that work. Do your wall push-ups. Do that wrist work. Really focus on that scapular mobility so that you can have strength in your back body, support from your core to hold yourself up, and you'll just keep getting stronger. So, see you soon. Thanks.